But we are about to get going racing, ladies and gentlemen. The drivers have been given a speed limit of 81 miles per hour. As soon as that goes green, we are off racing and away they go. Tim Stahl gets away very, very cleanly from the two Colombians, already jockeying for position between themselves, maybe trying to figure out who's going to attack. Raven Plummer there also looking to get involved, but there is some carnage there. I see drivers going off left and right. That is Estefano Barrera, and I see Jaden Harrison tumbling down the order. I'm not sure if contact was made between the two of them, and Noble Racing is now nowhere to be found. Tim Stahl gets away cleanly. Raven Plummer just behind. Stephen Pommel's trying to get into the mix along with Via Vicencio. It's happening already, Kale. I cannot keep up. This is mad. We should be going back to racing conditions right about now, ladies and gentlemen. And Raven Plummer already getting away very nicely there. She had the reaction time ready for Tim Stahl, who has to come through in second position. There is more carnage, it looks like, in the background there, and away we have gone. I'm not sure which drivers have lost out there, but Felipe Gil already making up a position on Stephen Pommel there, the two neck and neck heading down to turn 4, and they are running quite wide on that exit curb, and there's some more chaos back there. Not sure what just happened.
Mikhail Charles crosses the line as well, and they are almost 3 wide. That's Vince Da Silva, Mikhail Charles, and Bell there into the first corner. It's all popping off here. The JSRA Racing Team C they don't seem to be a team at all. They're absolutely racing through some of these corners here.
There
as we
goes
see Villa Vicencio getting it a little bit wrong there, going deep into that right-hander, but keeping it on the track, which is all that matters at this point in time. Not waiting about up there at the front of the grid, perhaps a little bit more comfortable with this track than Road Atlanta, but we can see Mikhail Charles and Michael McName, they have Vincent Da Silva behind them. This would be the perfect opportunity to work together, extend that gap, and towards the end of the race, battle it out for track position. But I don't think they're thinking about that at all right now.
Yeah, no.
Mikhail Charles ahead, heading through the right hander. Mikhail, they're going a bit deep. Michael seems to have gotten the better run, and they're side by side now, coming up the hill into a very tricky braking zone, and it's a right hander that is very awkward, especially with these tires on these brakes. Both of them keeping it cleanly through there and live to fight another day. But I don't know, why are these teammates battling so early on?
Yeah, we will keep an eye on these two, but maybe they will wise up knowing who is behind them, because Tim Stahl, again, ladies and gentlemen, was the man on pole, had an incident in the second restart and finds himself tumbling down the order, and is right now lost it there on the exit of 4, and manages to keep it pointing in the right direction, and he will soldier on. Sorry, kid.
And is managing to hold his own, it seems. There in 17th, Roger Keller here a little bit on the back foot in the last position here, trying to make a move on Stephen Pommel's heading down into the first corner. Stephen there with the Optimum Racing line kind of parks the bus there and closes the door on Roger Keller. He'll have to try again.
Right now, he may not be looking ahead, he needs to be looking behind, as Tim Stahl is on the offensive, and they are neck and neck heading up towards turn 8, sorry. And still neck and neck. Yeah, no, still neck and neck heading down the back straight here. Who is going to be braver on the brakes when we get to the chicane? I think Tim might have the better line here to take the advantage, and sweeps across the cover off that move, gets it done, and Mark Anthony Eaton finds himself losing out to Tim Stahl.
Further up the order in P6 is Mikhail Charles, about to make it P5, as he looks to be getting very close to the back of Ramiro Dominguez. There they are, nip and tuck through the final chicane. Dominguez not getting a proper exit and allows Mikhail Charles to finally put a car between himself and his teammate Michael McName. He moves himself now up into P5. An excellent race for the Trinidadian thus far.
But Raven Plummer now on the back straight, heading towards the line, drove, I think, An almost perfect race from the restart, got the jump on stall and just never looked back, you know, kept it clean. And here she comes to cross the line to take victory for JSRA Team A in the first race. Felipe Yil and Estefana Barrero will come through for Noble Racing in second and third to round out the podium. Iman Rayan manages to hold on to P4 with the charging Mikhail Charles behind him to take P5 for JSRA Team B, and Michael McName comes across P6. Tim Stahl, a recovery drive there to, you know, get himself back into the points, and takes P7 via Vicencio. P8, Senna Somerville takes P9. The Silva crosses for P10. Luis Daniel Velez comes across at P11, and Mark Anthony Eaton will take the final point on offer in this race in P12.
To get to their speed limit of 81 kilometers per hour. Keep that speed there until we see the green flag to go racing for another 18 minutes of racing action here at Donington. And they are away, and we can already see there in the background 4-5 wide coming down the start finish stretch. But it's going to be Senna Somerville going around the outside of Vincent Da Silva to take the lead of this race early on here. Carlos Villavicencio now in P3, Tim Stahl keeping his nose clean there in P4, Mikhail Charles and Michael McName in P5 and 6, nip and tuck as they were in the first race. Mikhail Charles trying to get by Tim Stahl there. No inter-team orders between those two drivers for JSRA Team A and C. Estefano Barrera and his teammate Luis Felipe Gil in P8, and well, they were P8 and P7, but Barrera getting past Michael McName there through turn 9. Now coming up over the hill to start the back straight, and it's Tim Stahl still in P4 trying to get past Carlos ahead of him, and he's almost side by side. It looks as though Mikhail Charles wants to get involved in this action, but it's going to be Senna Somerville. An excellent race start for him here in the Radicals, and Tim, they're almost side by side. A bit of contact between himself and the Venezuelan, and he finds himself into P2, but there was some contact there. And I do believe that Carlos Villavicencio is going to be filing some sort of complaint as Michael McName and Mikhail Charles pushing each other up the track there into the turn 1. It's 4 wide into the first corner. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of carnage, and there's a Jamaican driver sideways, now backways, rolling back onto the grid. But Vincent Da Silva, who was P1, manages to get through it cleanly, and it's only the second lap of this race. And
my eyes are on Tim Stahl right there with Senna Somerville. He got the advantage of the safety car bunching the field up, but we are a go racing, ladies and gentlemen. Senna Somerville getting the drive, but Tim looks to be getting racy immediately with Senna Somerville, who has to be positioning his car in a defensive manner right away as Tim Stahl is on the charge, and Felipe Yil right behind will be watching these two, wondering, will somebody get it wrong for me to pounce and get a victory here for Noble Racing in the second race? There is some contact there between Senna and Tim Stahl, and the contact continues all the way around to turn 8. Stahl there going wide, and exactly what I said would happen did happen. Felipe Yil comes out of turn 8 with the lead of the race. Stahl there tumbling down the order, and now it's on Raven Plummer to try and repeat what she did in the first race. Vicencio seems to have gotten it wrong there coming out of turn 5, but Raven Plummer and Felipe Yil up ahead. Raven and Felipe side by side. Who is going to come out ahead? I think Felipe had the better line there, but Raven might have gotten the power down a little earlier and gets a better drive down the straight, pulls out of the slipstream. They are going to be neck and neck going into the chicane, but I think Felipe covered that off very, very nicely. But Raven once again getting the better drive down the straight and pulls out of the slipstream one more time. Can this be the time she gets the move done to take the lead of the race? The two are side by side going into turn 1. Raven on the outside, Yil on the inside, and Felipe, I think, will keep it Again, Senna Somerville there getting it wrong on the exit and finds himself tumbling down the order. The lead, we have a three-way battle here going on. Mitchen, Wallace, Bell, and Lopez all fighting for that 10th position. Some contact there from one of the drivers.
And Kusuma Putra there making that drastic move from the left hand side of the track to the right hand side to go down the inside of Michelle Wallace. He's still there ahead. Michelle is with him, and Kimani Eastman there in the background trying to pick up the scraps, and Michelle Wallace is gonna have to concede that position. No, he does not. They're still side by side, and I think Johan now just edging ahead. Can Michelle make something happen here heading into turn 8? He does try to make a move up the inside, but thinks better of it.
Yeah, no, the fighting is still happening up and down the order here as Tim Stahl is trying to get himself back into the points paying positions, currently battling with Roger Keller there. A ways to go before Tim can get back into the points, but we only have 5 minutes of racing action left at the moment. Stahl getting back by Roger Keller there. The two are still side by side. Stahl, I think, will have the better drive into the chicane, takes that position away.
Just perhaps nerves getting in the better of them before those points paying position there. It was P5, 6, and 7. Now Ceballos now drops down to P8 and fighting his countryman Luis Daniel Velez, who I think may have a little bit of a pace advantage and moves around the, well, it was the inside. It turned to the outside for corners number 4 and heading now into 5, and Luis Daniel Velez finds himself up into P8. Tim Stahl moves up past Roger Keller. We saw that move actually heading through the final chicane there, and it's going to be Raven Plummer trying to get past Felipe Yield there, but these two so equally matched for pace. It seems that it's you make a mistake or you're gonna lose that position. But if any positions are going to be made or any overtake is going to be made here, it's going to be a blink and miss type situation. And
we'll see which one of those rivals manages to come out ahead by the time we get to the line, and that is Mikhail Charles, I think, going off there, getting it all wrong, coming up to turn 9 and loses out. So that gives Daniel Velez a clear path to attack Bell with Iman Rayan still behind, keeping abreast of the situation. But time has elapsed, ladies and gentlemen. I am not sure if the drive was in the lead started that lap. I believe that lap should be the final lap for Yield and Plummer. And those two drivers.
Yeah, about that Chad Plummer here, still trying to make something happen. The gap is virtually nothing between them, 2/10, if even so much. He's trying to go around the outside here into turn 8, but Felipe placing that car excellently and not giving her the light of day to make the move work. Raven here, I think, is going to apply maximum pressure, sitting firmly in that slipstream. She pulls out to the left-hand side. Does she have enough speed to pull up alongside and disturb him heading into the final chicane? They'll be side by side heading into the final chicane, but Felipe will have that inside line, and Raven will have to follow suit. She doesn't get the run that she would like heading up to the line, and I think that's going to be a win for Felipe Yield. Victory for the Venezuelan, victory for Nova Racing in the second race. Raven Plummer, an excellent race from her, but bested by the Venezuelans once again. Stephen Hummels picking up the scraps for JSRA Team C. Eman Ryan fought and held off the position from Mikhail Charles, Ramiro Dominguez, and Johan Kandra Kusuma Pantura. Sorry, Kusuma Putra. I don't know, I keep trying. Excellent race there from Johan. Ceballos with the P8 finish, followed by Luis Daniel Velez, Grant Bell, Kimani Eastman in 11, Vincent Da Silva in P12, the final points paying position. Michelle Wallace seemingly getting up to speed in the final moments there of that race, coming across the line in P13. Andres Lopez in P14, Roger Keller in P15. Tim Stahl unable to do much more than he did. That recovery drive not panning out how he would have wanted, finishes P16. there, speed limit of 81 kilometers per hour. Keep that speed there until we see the green flag to go racing for another 18 minutes of racing action here at Donington. And they are away, and we can already see there in the background 4-5 wide coming down the start finish stretch. But it's going to be Senna Somerville going around the outside of Vincent da Silva to take the lead of this race early on here. It's Carlos Villavicencio now in P3, Tim Stahl keeping his nose clean there in P4, Mikhail Charles and Michael McName in P5 and 6, nip and tuck as they were in the first race. Mikhail Charles trying to get by Tim Stahl there. No inter-team orders between those two drivers for JSRA Team A and C. Estefano Barrera and his teammate Luis Felipe Gil in P8. And well, they were P8 and P7, but Barrera getting past Michael McName there through turn 9. Now coming up over the hill to start the back straight, and it's Tim Stahl still in P4 trying to get past Carlos ahead of him, and he's almost side by side. It looks as though Mikhail Charles wants to get involved in this action, but it's going to be Senna Somerville. An excellent race start for him here in the Radicals, and Tim, they're almost side by side. A bit of contact between himself and the Venezuelan, and he finds himself into P2, but there was some contact there. And I do believe that Carlos Villavicencio is going to be filing some sort of complaint as Michael McName and Mikhail Charles pushing each other up the track there into the turn 1. It's 4 wide into the first corner. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of carnage, and there's a Jamaican driver sideways, now backways, rolling back onto the grid. But Vincent da Silva, who was P1, manages to get through it cleanly, and it's only the second lap of this race. And
my eyes are on Tim Stahl right there with Senna Somerville. He got the advantage of the safety car bunching the field up, but we are a go racing, ladies and gentlemen. Senna Somerville getting the drive, but Tim looks to be getting racy immediately with Senna Somerville, who has to be positioning his car in a defensive manner right away as Tim Stahl is on the charge, and Felipe Yiel right behind will be watching these two, wondering, will somebody get it wrong for me to pounce and get a victory here for Noble Racing in the second race? There is some contact there between Senna and Tim Stahl, and the contact continues all the way around to turn 8. Stahl there going wide, and exactly what I said would happen did happen. Felipe Yiel comes out of turn 8 with the lead of the race. Stahl there tumbling down the order, and now it's on Raven Plummer to try and repeat what she did in the first race. Essentially seems to have gotten it wrong there coming out of turn 5, but Raven Plummer and Felipe Yiel up ahead. Raven and Felipe side by side. Who is gonna come out ahead? I think Felipe had the better line there, but Raven might have gotten the power down a little earlier and gets a better drive down the straight, pulls out of the slipstream. They are gonna be neck and neck going into the chicane, but I think Felipe covered that off very, very nicely. But Raven once again getting the better drive down the straight and pulls out of the slipstream one more time. Can this be the time she gets the move done to take the lead of the race? The two are side by side going into turn 1. Raven on the outside, Yiel on the inside, and Felipe, I think, will keep it again. Senna Somerville there getting it wrong on the exit and finds himself tumbling down the order. The lead, we have a three-way battle here going on. Mitchen Wallace, Bell and Lopez all fighting for that 10th position. Some contact there from one of the drivers.
And Kusuma Putra there making that drastic move from the left hand side of the track to the right hand side to go down the inside of Mitchen Wallace. He's still there ahead. Mitchen is with him, and Kimani Eastman there in the background trying to pick up the scraps, and Mitchen Wallace is going to have to concede that position. No, he does not. They're still side by side, and I think Johan now just edging ahead. Can Mitchen make something happen here heading into turn 8? He does try to make a move up the inside, but thinks better of it.
Yeah, no, the fighting is still happening up and down the order here as Tim Stahl is trying to get himself back into the points paying positions, currently battling with Roger Keller there. A ways to go before Tim can get back into the points, but we only have 5 minutes of racing action left at the moment. Stahl getting back by Roger Keller there. The two are still side by side. Stahl, I think, will have the better drive into the chicane, takes that position away.
Just perhaps nerves getting in the better of them before those points paying position there. It was P5, 6 and 7. Now Ceballos now drops down to P8. and fighting his countryman Luis Daniel Velez, who I think may have a little bit of a pace advantage, and moves around it was the inside. It turned to the outside for corners number 4 and heading now into 5. And Luis Daniel Velez finds himself up into P8. Tim Stahl moves up past Roger Keller. We saw that move actually heading through the final chicane there, and it's going to be Raven Plummer trying to get past Felipe Yield there, but these two so equally matched for pace. It seems that it's you make a mistake or you're gonna lose that position. But if any positions are gonna be made or any overtake is gonna be made here, it's gonna be a blink and miss type situation.
And we'll see which one of those rivals manages to come out ahead by the time we get to the line, and that is Mikhail Charles, I think, going off there, getting it all wrong, coming up to turn 9 and loses out. So that gives Daniel Velez a clear path to attack Bell, with Iman Rayan still behind, keeping abreast of the situation. But time has elapsed, ladies and gentlemen. I am not sure if the drive was in the lead started that lap. I believe that lap should be the final lap for Yield and Plummer. And those two drivers.
Sorry about that, Chad. Plummer here still trying to make something happen. The gap is virtually nothing between them, 2/10, if even so much. He's trying to go around the outside here into turn 8, but Felipe placing that car excellently and not giving her the light of day to make the move work. Raven here, I think, is going to apply maximum pressure, sitting firmly in that slipstream. She pulls out to the left-hand side. Does she have enough speed to pull up alongside and disturb him heading into the final chicane? They'll be side by side heading into the final chicane, but Felipe will have that inside line, and Raven will have to follow suit. She doesn't get the run that she would like heading up to the line, and I think that's going to be a win for Felipe Yield. Victory for the Venezuelan, victory for Nova Racing in the second race. Raven Plummer, an excellent race from her, but bested by the Venezuelans once again. Stephen Hummels picking up the scraps for JSRA Team C. Iman Rayan fought and held off the position from Mikhail Charles, Ramiro Dominguez, and Johan Kandra Kusuma Pantura. Sorry, Kusuma Putra. I don't know, I keep trying. Excellent race there from Johan. Ceballos with the P8 finish, followed by Luis Daniel Velez, Grant Bell, Kimani Eastman in 11, Vincent Da Silva in P12, the final points paying position. Michelle Wallace seemingly getting up to speed in the final moments there of that race, coming across the line in P13. Andres Lopez in P14, Roger Keller in P15. Tim Stahl unable to do much more than he did. That recovery drive not panning out how he would have wanted, finishes P16. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thanks for joining me on YouTube, live on YouTube, and on the SportsMax app. My name is Kelvin Roper and I'm joined by Chad Dillon for the third round of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we thank you for tuning in with us once again, and we hope to bring you some great racing action as we have done so far in this series. We are here at the San Carlos circuit in Venezuela, and it promises to be an exciting one. This is a very high-speed track that should provide some good wheel-to-wheel action, as is always the case in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. And we continue our Caribbean tour here in Venezuela for round number 3.
Absolutely. And here in this series, it's going to continue to take us around the Caribbean to witness some of the fiercest bumper-to-bumper racing between top talents around the region. Drivers will push themselves to the limit, battling side by side to come out on top in two action-packed 20-minute races, the second of which will be a reverse grid of the top 10 finishers in the first. The race format is an hour and 30 minutes of practice, 15 minutes of qualifying coming up in about 3 or 4 minutes time, then the first of two 20-minute races, first of which will decide the order reversed in the second race. And we're here, as Chad said, here at San Carlos in Venezuela, 3.1 kilometers, 9 corners, very high speed indeed. And we are here, of course, in the fan favorite, the latest update to our custom built touring cars, the Mitsubishi Lancer, the Chevy Cruze, the Ford Focus, and the Toyota Corolla. But Chad, it seems as though tonight it's just Corolla and I think one Mitsubishi?
Yeah, I think the cars have been decided mostly by the recent updates in the touring car pack. So these cars are regularly updated, ladies and gentlemen, as we try to improve the racing action that they provide over time. But the recent update saw the introduction of push to pass, which should add some excitement to the race to come. But yeah, I think for a circuit such as this one, be very quick in a straight line and can manage the corners. That is, the Toyota Corolla can do both those things quite well, whereas some of the other cars that might be great in a straight line, like the Chevy Cruze or the Ford Focus, may not do so well in the high speed corners, and that could result in the choice by most of the drivers today to run that Toyota Corolla. The Lancer also isn't very bad, but I think the Toyota has a slight edge in terms of performance here, and that is why you would see most of the drivers favoring that car. However, the car is one thing, the driver is another. The race is a whole different animal. So whilst these choices have been made, we will see how it pans out as we get into the race. So we're about a minute away from the start of the next session. The driver is currently in the driver briefing, getting caught up on all of the changes, as well as the format for today and whatever other rules and regulations they need to go over during this competition. But certainly, as I think that Senna Somerville there out on the track, so we can join him for that whilst we discuss what is to come. So with the additional push to pass, my understanding is that the drivers will only be allowed to use it whilst they are within a certain gap range of drivers around them, and the leader will not have the option to use push to pass. So kind of similar to the DRS effect in Formula One, just to give you an example of how it should work. We will be able to tell when drivers are using the push to pass. Their numbers will light up in blue, so we can be aware. But yeah, back to the track, Kale. Having driven this track in one previous competition, a Radical Cup with Venezuela last year, my experience around this track is it is certainly about being able to maximize entry and exits and carry as much speed as you can, because there are really only two heavy braking zones, and that is the braking zone of turn 2 and turn 3. So outside of that, you are almost always on power, very light lifts and very small dabs of brake otherwise. But certainly it's going to be a track that it's all about maximizing speed and exit.
Definitely, Chad. Having had the pleasure of driving the circuit myself, you are spot on. It's all about carrying that momentum, as they say with only two heavy braking zones being here on the track, is Senna going through the first one into turn 2, then heading up this short straight into turn 3, which is barely a braking zone, on top of the brakes and the radicals, and you just throw the car in and the air keeps it planted. You lift and just allow the car to coast around and back on the throttle, And it's almost something similar here for these CTCC cars. They're a bit more heavy, a little less aero, so not quite the exact same thing. So they're trying to go out as fast as possible, but not quite keeping the car on the track. This track is definitely going to be suited to these cars because these cars they're more fun the longer you keep that right foot down on the throttle. And
Absolutely.
it should be a pretty clean race in my opinion. With the lack of these heavy braking zones, the drivers will have a little bit more space to play to, jockey for position and so on. It's a pretty wide track as well, and with very wide runoff areas. So, and also with the number of drivers here within the Kiel Charles just joining, it should be. I think this should be one of the races to look forward to.
Absolutely. And another thing to note with that braking zone at turn 3 is that there is a lot less grip uh, during the middle of that corner because the tarmac changes to a less grippy surface throughout the apex and second half of that corner. So it is certainly something for the drivers to watch. That's kind of why you saw Senna Somerville there running off, because he may have gotten the car slowed down enough for a normal corner where if the grip stayed consistent throughout he would have been fine, but the grip levels change mid-corner, so it is certainly one of those zones that you will have to watch, as drivers may in the heat of battle, kind of have a lapse in concentration and forget about the grip change there, and it could cause some issues. So just one of the zones to watch based on the fact that that is one of the few features of this track, let's just say it that way. But certainly we are about to head into the qualifying session, and Alex Jarrett there at the top of the practice sheet, I think that is the fastest time we have seen so far this week, if I'm not mistaken, and that is a blistering time around this track. So we will
As a, ma-
definitely... Sorry, Kale, go ahead.
I was going to say, as a matter of fact, it is not the fastest time we've seen. Jaden Harrison has set the fastest lap time throughout practice, a 1:10.82. So just a few hundredths quicker than Alex Jarrett there. But yeah, a strong showing from Alex out the gate during pre-practice. The qualifying session just beginning now, 15 minutes for the drivers to do as many laps as they can to put down as fast a lap time as possible. And of course, as usual, our eyes will be on the likes of Jaden Harrison, Tim Stahl, and Alex Jarrett now stepping into the fray. Raven Plummer, we haven't seen much from her during practice, but of course, she's usually one to watch. And battles going into this race to watch is definitely going to be Raven Plummer, Tim Stahl, and Senna Somerville. We were there, well, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed it last time out at Autodromo Internacional de Touragoa, it was an epic race. It came down to the final corner on the final lap. And as we are about to begin qualifying now, we're going to expect more of that.
Absolutely, Senna Somerville there leading the majority of that race, just parking his car ever so nicely throughout the course of that race to defend from the likes of Raven. And I think Tim was behind Raven trying to give chase as well. And,
that's right.
Just defended all the way through, right down to the final corner, and then just made a slight error. It wasn't even a catastrophic error. It was a very small error where he ran a little bit deep into the corner, and that was all it took for Raven Plummer to take the victory in what was almost a photo finish. As they crossed the line, they were neck and neck heading towards the start-finish line, and it was certainly one for the books. But that is the past, and right now we are here for round number 3 at San Carlos, and we are about 2.5 minutes into the qualifying session, and we have yet to see anybody post a time. I think Roger Robinson might be the first driver to post a valid lap, So as
It
he's
will be.
rounding the final corner there, and I think that may be a little too wide. Track limits here are not super friendly. It did not count, so just running it a little wider on the exit curb, and that was all it took for Jay Robinson to invalidate that lap. But here we do see some laps coming in. Mikhail Charles, the first driver on the board of the 112.5, immediately toppled by Roger Kello on a 111.8. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, we certainly expect those times to plummet as these drivers get up to speed. Maybe track grip not quite yet. Well, the track is at optimum, but maybe the track just not quite yet rubbed in for these drivers, as we see Mikhail Charles there going through turn number 3, which is, as I mentioned, slightly less grippy than the rest of the track, and the drivers will be feeling it as they go through that section. Mikhail Charles here on an improvement so far on this lap, so we will see if he can maybe match Roger Keller there at the top. He was beaten by Kimani Eastman as well, who slots himself into P2 on a 112.3. Mikhail Charles is improving through 2 sectors, so we will see where that lands him as he rounds the final corner. Did he carry enough speed?
He was well within the track limits there, Chad. And if you're just joining us, thanks for joining us once again live on YouTube and on the Sportsmax app. My name is Kilvade Roper. The voice you've been listening to has been Chad Dillon, taking us through the 15-minute qualifying session. Now about 11 minutes left. We're here at San Carlos Circuit in Venezuela with these Caribbean Touring cars in the 3rd installation of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. Right now, it's looking pretty close there at the top of the timing sheets. It's been about 5 minutes, and the top 5 are within 7/10 of each other. That's pretty close. As Tim Stahl now coming across the line to begin what I think is going to be his first flying lap, his previous 2 laps being invalidated, taking it flat there through the first corner, hardly a corner, now into turn 2, the heavy braking zone, keeping that car braking in a straight line, turn in and get back on the throttle as quickly as you dare, not allowing the car to understeer because it will go wide with you if you allow it. Move the car back over to the right hand side for the very dusty, it's not very grippy here in turn 3. Turn 3 turns into turn 4. It's a bit of a switchback here as you open up the entrance into turn 5. Then it's all about hitting your apexes and keeping your line to open up turn 6 now, the long left-hander, which moves through 7 and up into 8, the penultimate corner. Tim there taking a very wide berth to get his line right, using up all the track and then some, and now turning into the final corner, foot flat to the floor, coming up across the line. And I think that was a very neat lap there from Tim. He comes across the line and goes not quite P1 but P2 for him, separated from Jaden Harrison by 0.03 of a second.
And I do think he has some more in the tank there, Kale, because that was a rocky start to the lap where he did run wide on the exit of the previous lap, so may not have gotten all of the speed that he could carry up that first straight. So we will see if he is on for any improvement here on this lap, given that he made some errors there and not quite the improvement I would have expected out of Sector 1 there, given that he would have lost a little bit of time during the previous lap. But it is the fastest Sector 1 of anybody so far, as he is now rounding what should be the turn 6 into turn 7 complex. And all of that section, ladies and gentlemen, these drivers are foot flat to the floor. It should just be a short braking zone here into turn 8, and then no brake, just a lift through turn 9. Once you hit the apex correctly, the camber of that corner should help you hook it up, and he now heads out onto the start finish line and does go pole provisionally on a 111.1.
Only 8 minutes left, Chad, and knowing these drivers, there is, as you put it, a lot more left in the tank. We have seen the 1 minute 10s throughout practice, Jaden giving us the time to beat a 1 minute 10.825. We're not sure if he'll bring a time like that out again, but we are definitely expecting an improvement all up and down the grid. Mikhail Charles here with a personal best in Sector 2, getting a bit of a slipstream here from the driver ahead of him, coming across the line, currently in P5. Stays P5, but makes an improvement. Kimani Eastman in P6 behind him will be looking to make an improvement, as well as he's demoted to P7 by Nicholas Donald. Nicholas Donald there just coming across the line and moves into the pits. And there's that improvement from Kimani Eastman, moving himself back up into P6 here in this qualifying session. About 7 minutes left to go, and it's still anyone's quali session.
Absolutely, Kale. And as we're looking up and down the timing sheet, the top three separated by 0.2 of a second. We are in for a race once again, ladies and gentlemen. And with the addition of push to pass, the drivers will have 5 uses of the push to pass feature, so they will have to be strategic about it, as they are only allowed to use it within certain battling ranges as well. So these drivers will have to be very, very aware and strategize as to how they will use that throughout the course of a race to elevate themselves up the order. But Kale, as we are watching the 3 drivers battling at the front, there's a name that we would have expected to be somewhere up there that is not quite in the mix, and that is Raven Plummer, who seems to be either not yet up to grips around this track, or just does not seem to have the pace to match the drivers ahead. With about 5.5 minutes left in the quali session, Raven Plummer sitting down there in P9 on a 1:12.2, well over a second off of the pace of the top 3 at the moment.
Well, it would be a fool's errand to think that Raven has suddenly lost her speed. We know what she is capable of, and we also know that, per her own testament, that she usually sets her car up for race pace. I'm sure she would have done tens of, if not hundreds, breaking that 100 mark worth of laps of testing to see what suits this car best, especially at this track. So we will definitely be seeing Raven coming into the mix, or perhaps it's a bit of a strategy here. It's going to be 2 races, Chad. And with the implementation of the push to pass system, which you were just explaining, getting within a second of the driver ahead, you're allowed to use the push to pass, which gives, well, rather unlocks just a few more horsepower for the car behind. And it's what it means is that we're gonna see some more hard-fought racing here, as drivers will be able to close that gap down and then use the push to pass only 2 times per lap and 5 times per the entire race. That should be giving us another unique attribute here to look out for during the race. And as we speak, Raven moves herself up into P4. It looks like she just wasn't able to hook up the lap she wanted in the earlier stages of qualifying, but here now in the last third, she pushes herself up onto the second row of the grid.
Maybe she heard me there and decided, okay, Mr. Commentator, you think you can throw words at me? Well, here you go. But alas, Jaden Harrison there taking a detour, to say the least, off into the grass, and that is a recipe for disaster. Because of the high-speed nature of this track, Kale, putting any of your tires out there is certainly a surefire way to see your race go up in smoke, because you will lose so much time, and not only that, you won't be able to get the car slowed down to just make it a small error. Getting off onto the grass is likely to cost you heaps of time. So these drivers, whilst trying to push to the maximum, also have to be very, very careful and mindful of the fact that you could undo your entire race just by getting it wrong in one corner.
And we know these drivers, especially in CTCC, are super competitive. So we're going to see no quarter given, well, at least not so easily here around this track. There's going to be side-by-side fighting. There's gonna be contact to say Robbins Racing, Chad. So hopefully it doesn't end in disaster for any of the drivers here. But I mean, it's what we expect. We expect there to be some hard-fought, competitive, hopefully clean racing here, as we're on board with Roger Robinson, who is I mean, looking really on form now, we know that the CTCC is one of his preferred series, and so far throughout the series, I don't think we've seen enough of him. So it's good to see Roger here up in the top three, provisionally, about 2.5 minutes left in qualifying, and not quite making any improvements is Roger. Rather, it is his fellow friend there, Roger Keller, making quite the improvement and demoting Raven down into P4. Roger coming
P5.
across the line, an improvement for him in the third sector, but not quite enough to move up the order.
Yeah, just a small correction there, Kale. Roger just demoted Raven into P5, but we soldier on, ladies
Oh,
and
my
gentlemen.
apologies.
I did notice Senna Somerville and Alex Jarrett there were not out on track putting in lap times. Senna now did a lap, a 1:14.1, which we know Senna can go a lot quicker. Are those two drivers strategizing back there to determine that, hey, we're going to start at the back of the field, utilize that push to pass situation, and wait for some of the drama ahead to unfold so that we can, get ourselves in the mix without having to exert the kind of effort that the drivers, maybe in the mid pack and maybe even at the front, will have to put out in order to keep themselves relevant in the race, as Jaden Harrison there beating out Tim Stahl by 100th of a second. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know how minuscule that time margin is, but when people tell you that, as you blink it gone, that is not even doing it justice.
That is an understatement.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But here we are, last minute of the qualifying session. I think we have, what's that, about 8 drivers out on track, so only those drivers will be able to complete laps that will count for the remainder of this session. Jaden Harrison in the pits thinking, okay, that's all she wrote, that's all I have. But Roger Robinson at the moment did improve in sector 1, fastest of all, no improvement in sector 2, and it actually isn't. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the lap before. So it seems he just started another lap, and that should be the end of his session because he will not get back to the line in time for another flyer. And this lap is about, well, this is a cool down lap, it seems. But whilst we're waiting on the remainder of the drivers to come across the line with their laps, Tim Stahl not improving, so Jaden Harrison at the moment looking quite keen to be on provisional pole. I'm not seeing much improvement up and down the order, as Michaela Charles, who was improving, lost it. So I think right now it's safe to say Jaden Harrison will be starting on pole. But you did make mention of Raven and her race setup on a track like this, a very high speed track where you are leaning on the tires at high speed a whole lot. I am sure tire wear will become a factor. It's only a 20-minute race, but when you're talking about margins as small as 100th of a second between the top two, that little bit of extra edge in tire life might be an advantage as you get to the latter stages of the race, particularly if the drivers are going along following very closely, on a high-speed track where the corners come at you and you're flat out through the corners. You will certainly take a little bit more life out of the tires a little bit more quickly. So it will be interesting to see if that is the case and there is an advantage to be gained from the setup mentioned, where you aim more at your race pace than at quali pace. But quali session has wrapped up here, Kale, and Jaden Harrison will start from pole, with Tim Stahl alongside him on row number 1, Roger Robinson and Roger Keller, the two drivers on the second row of the grid, Raven Plummer and Michael Charles starting P3, P5 and 6, my apologies, and they are very close on the timing sheet as well. The top 6 separated by just about half a second. We are in for a race, ladies and gentlemen.
Most definitely, Chad. And I'll do it one more time for the latecomers. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for joining us live on the YouTube and Sportsmax app. for the third round of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. We're here in vibrant Venezuela. Another time at the San Carlos circuit, we've just witnessed a very close qualifying session. Jaden Harrison taking the top spot, Tim Stahl in P2 and Roger Robinson in P3. And it's looking to be, I mean, look at the times. They're from P1 straight down to P9, all within 1 second of each other. And Chad, you were making mention there of different strategies that may be employed now that for this week we've implemented a push to pass system. The drivers within a second of the driver ahead of them will be able to utilize an extra boost from their engine, unlocking a few extra horsepower for a few moments to hopefully assist them in making pass, very similar to the Formula One DRS system. So that may, as you say, it is a very high speed track. We may see a bit of strategy coming into play to save tires. Don't attack too hard, maybe leave a bit more space between yourself and the car ahead to try and save your tires. And when you're ready to attack, you just use that push to pass. So we're going to see it all unfold here in the first of two 20-minute races here around San Carlos.
Absolutely, Kale. And yeah, that push to pass feature around such a high speed track, it may not be the most effective tool, similar to as you mentioned, the DRS. Like, for example, DRS in Formula One at a track like Monza, where the power of the DRS is not so evident, given that the drivers are running such low downforce. Similar situation here when you start talking about high speed tracks that will not have the kind of that will not have the kind of speed gain advantage coming out of a low speed turn, for example. Well, we will continue that discussion, but ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is a rolling start. The safety car will lead the drivers away when we get the green lights, and they will be on a formation lap. And then once we get back to the line, the drivers will go racing in rolling start format. So just in case you wonder why the lights go out and nobody moves except the safety car, that is why. But yes, Kale, around a track like this, I would say your strategy in terms of use of that push to pass might be in terms of seeing a driver that you're battling with make any kind of error. They're so much more pronounced around a high speed track where you'll be losing out in terms of speed carried. So that would be the ideal situation in which to use that push to pass. But that is one man's opinion. We will see what the drivers give us with that feature as we progress through the race. And we're about to get going, ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments' time with the formation lap to then lead us into what is the first of two 20-minute races here at San Carlos in Venezuela. We are getting the lights now.
Chad, if I may just quickly give my opinion on the use of the push to pass, I think we're going to be seeing it used more in the dying stages of the race, around 2 minutes left to go in the desperation zone, as we'll call it. I think we're going to see it being used a lot into turn 2, coming out of turn 2, and on the run up to the final corner to try and get an easy pass on the driver ahead, who is not allowed to use push to pass. If you're the driver leading, push to pass will be disabled. It is only for the cars chasing behind, and there will be 9 or is it 10 angry drivers behind whoever is leading. Right now, the man leading is the safety car, but behind him is Jaden Harrison, who qualified on pole position in the Toyota Corolla. It's a lot of Toyotas out here tonight. It seems as though this car is fitting the bill in terms of speed, handling characteristics, and just overall setup for this kind of high-speed track nature. It's not all about straight line speed here. It's going to be about how the car reacts, how the car feels going through some of these high-speed corners. And it seems as though the bill that fits everyone tonight is not everyone, but majority of the field is the Toyota Corolla, Roger Robinson and Senna Somerville. The lone outliers, I believe, in the Mitsubishi Lancer.
There,
Let me just
there
look at my
is
notes here.
there is one Ford Focus out there being piloted by Oswin Wilson, or at least so it
And the Kimani
was,
Eastman.
and Kimani Isman. I see. So yeah, I mean that's 4 out of 12, and then 13 actually. Well, yeah, no, 12. My apologies. And then the rest of the field are all in the Corolla, the preferred car in today's race. Well, we have now had the safety car pull away, and the drivers will be forming up to go racing as we are rounding the final corner. So we await that safety car light to go red and then green for us to get going racing, ladies and gentlemen, as we see the cars all lined up on the front four looking to go racing almost immediately. They are neck and neck here down the start finish straight, and we do have the green light, and off we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are watching 3 wide heading towards turn 1. Jaden Harrison, Tim Stahl and Roger Robinson going at it already, and I think Tim Stahl comes out of that ahead, as he may have had the advantage there into turn 1, having the inside line, and maintains it through turn number 2. Jaden Harrison there running off just a smidge, managing to keep it going, however, and those two drivers getting away from the rest of the pack, as it looks like Roger Robinson there may have had an issue tumbling down the order to P5 coming out of turn 2. Mikhail Charles promoted into P3. Behind him, Raven Plummer is looking to get aggressive early, and we have yet to see push the pass come into play. So maybe you're right, Kale, maybe it will be a later on in the race kind of situation. Raven Plummer already coming under attack from Roger Robinson, who is right with her through that looks like turn 7, as we are now heading into turn 8.
Now heading into turn 8, the penultimate corner, and yes, she's coming under attack from Roger behind her, but I don't think she's going to be feeling the pressure for right now, because Roger there got a jump start and will have to take to the pits for a drive-through. Jaden Harrison there immediately became under attack from Tim Stahl and Roger on the first lap to the first corner. It was 3 wide there, and Roger the one coming off worse, running off into the grass. Towards the back of the grid. Senna Somerville there moving up a few positions, as did Eric Ferreira, Kimani Eastman in P6 with Oswin Wilson ahead in P5. And things are they're still very close here. It's early days in this race here, but Tim Stahl leads from Jaden Harrison, Mikhail Childs up into P3, and Raven Plummer in P4. Oswin Wilson there trying to pressure Raven now for that P4, and it looks as though there's a little bit of a movement going on for P8, 9, and 10. Senna there dropping a few positions, but still within push to pass distance of the drivers ahead of him. No driver pulling the trigger as yet on push to pass, perhaps not seeing the need for it as per my prediction, but it's been 2 laps now, going to start the 3rd lap, and who's that they're going a little bit wide. It looks like Roger Keller struggling for a little bit of grip, and there's Alex Jarrett trying to take that position from him. No, it's Roger Keller using push to pass, and we can see him there in the blue car on the right side of your screen, just pulling away from Alex in the red car there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an excellent example of the effectiveness of push to pass. It brought Roger Keller back into this fight.
Absolutely, and you will see the driver's number light up in yellow when push to pass is in use, and then it will go blue during the cooldown phase of push to pass. You see a few drivers using it here and there. That was excellent use of it there from Roger Keller. So both for attack and defense here, it seems, at this stage of the game. But definitely, we are looking to see what else comes of the use of that feature as we progress here into the race. But Oswin Wilson is putting some pressure on Raven Plummer, and will we see one of these drivers be the next to utilize that feature in their ongoing battle? Up ahead, Jaden Harrison trying to hold on to Tim Stahl, who seems to have the advantage here in the early stages of the race. But we have only gone 4 minutes and change, ladies and gentlemen. We still have lots of time to go, as Jaden Harrison there setting the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Tim Stahl. Roger Robinson not quite making the inroads I would have expected at this stage of the game, but having taken that drive-through penalty, he has his work to do for the next 15 minutes. But looking up and down the order, we've kind of settled ourselves down here a little bit, as Raven Plummer maybe now finding her pace, looking to take the fight to Mikhail Charles ahead. I'm not sure if Mikhail there made an error, and that brought Raven right back into contention. We are seeing a few battles take place as Roger Keller is looking to take the fight to Eric Ferrero. There, that is P turn 6, it looks like, and the position they're fighting for is P7 at the moment.
But Chad, let's look at what's going on here with Jaden Harrison and Tim Stahl going into the final corner. Jaden here might be lining up Tim for a move. He's used push to pass once already. He's in the slipstream. He doesn't seem to be using it here, perhaps thinking a little bit better of it, saving that push to pass for a later stage of the race. Tim goes defensive, holding the inside line. Will Jaden try and go around the outside? He does. He stays there and Tim gives him the space. They're side by side heading into turn 2. Jaden has the position for now, and Tim tried to take it back, but Jaden absolutely slamming that door in his face. Further back, there's Roger Keller getting past Eric Ferreira, who it looks as though may have had a bit of an incident there, losing 2 positions in a very short period of time. Roger Keller making an excellent race for him thus far, but Jaden Harrison, what a brave move from him going through turn 1 into turn 2.
Yeah, no, that was an aggressive maneuver there from Jaden Harrison, managing to do that around the outside of a very long turn 1. That just showed you the speed advantage that he had over Tim Stahl there, who may have made a small error out of the final corner, giving Jaden Harrison the chance to try and make that move, and make that move he did. And not only did he make the move, ladies and gentlemen, he then proceeded to bully his way to the inside line for the following corner to make sure that Tim Stahl could not fight back in that corner. And that is beautiful racecraft.
With push to pass activated, Chad. Will we see another switch for the lead here? The German moves to the inside. Jaden covers him off, but he is still there. Still very relevant, still very large in his rearview mirrors. Jaden in the middle of the track, positioning his car very expertly here. And Tim, even with the use of push to pass, unable to get past Jaden there. Jaden probably running a little bit of a lower downforce setup there, because he was able to really catch up to Tim last lap, but Tim just not quite getting that that oomph that we saw Jaden and Roger get from the push to pass. And Raven now seems to be, well, she was under pressure from Oswin. Oswin is still there, still very relevant, Chad, but it seems to be settling down, as you were saying. Kimani Eastman using push to pass twice thus far. Oswin Wilson almost no more left for him. As for Roger Robinson, but Rahe rather having taken that drive-through, we can understand that he would be using up his push to pass to try and get away, or rather catch up to the back of the grid. And we can see both drivers, P1 and P2, using up those push to pass. We can see them, they're trying to get past each other. Jaden using it in defense, Tim using it in attack, and the positions remain the same. This is very cat and mouse here from these two, as Alex Jarrett takes that position back from Roger Keller and moves himself up into P7. So much is going on, Chad. I think this push to pass is definitely adding another layer of spice.
Oh, absolutely it is, and it's a little bit difficult to keep up because these rivals are battling up and down the order, trying to snag a position here or there, and that push to pass, they're a little trigger happy with it, I must say. I did not think it would be this aggressively used this early in the race. I mean, we're about at the halfway mark, and I'm hearing you telling me that some drivers are almost out of the push to pass already. Ladies and gentlemen, they only get 5 uses for the entirety of the 20-minute race. So once that 5 uses is over, there is no more to be gained or used. So as we're now, as I mentioned, approaching the halfway mark, Jaden Harrison there getting a stop and go penalty for speeding in the pit lane, it seems. I'm not sure what took place there for Jaden Harrison. He will have to serve that penalty on the next lap, it seems. He did re-emerge.
You know what, Chad? sorry to cut you there, but you know what? I think Tim was getting very racy and trying to get past Jaden, and he went very defensive, perhaps getting a little bit too close to the pit entry and just triggering the pit entry
Speed limit.
perimeter. So yes, so they didn't go into the pits, but Assetto Corsa thought they did, giving both of those drivers a drive through. Not sure how that one will be worked out, but I
Well,
can just imagine how defensive Jade must have been going.
yeah, we will see what the stewards decide on that one. But looking up and down the order, these two drivers, as that is
Ooh.
Tim Stalder, I think, going very, very wide, and Jaden Harrison taking his stop and go penalty. So that promotes. Well, when Tim takes his, that will promote Mikhail Charles into the lead of the race, with Raven Plummer still giving chase behind. Oswin Wilson also in the mix, chasing her down. She's been slowly, well, she's kept almost right on pace with Mikhail Charles, but just has not had enough to gain an advantage there from Mikhail. So we will see if anything changes as we get into the dying stages of the race, as Senna Somerville there and Jaden Harrison, who would have just re-emerged from the pits, not really going at it, but I guess Jaden re-emerging just behind Senna Somerville after taking his stop and go, and I believe Tim will have to do the same at the end of this lap, so we will see what that yields for him. I'm not sure what Senna was thinking with his qualifying strategy, because whereas we see Alex Jarrett has moved himself nicely up the order into P6 and is giving chase to Kimani Eastman, Senna Somerville has not made the same kind of inroads, as he is now in a battle, it seems, with Jaden Harrison, and this is hurting both of their races at the moment, Kale, as I don't think they're in the same battle, but Senna not want to yield a position for any reason at all, as we have learned throughout the duration of his tenure with us here.
Well, Chad, this is a battle for position. Jaden there getting past Senna. It is a battle for position, having taken that stop and go. Jaden is now on track and in the race in P10. He's in that final points paying position, or rather in that final spot where you would be eligible to change your order for the next race. There's Senna and Nicholas Donald getting very racy there. Both drivers going off and coming back onto the track, managing to keep it clean. No contact and no crashes there. Excellent for, well, a lot of luck there as well for both of those drivers. Tim Stahl coming around the final corner now, with a train of drivers behind him. Mikhail Charles, Raven Plum, and Oswin Wilson in P2, 3, and 4. As a matter of fact, Tim there yet to take his stop and go penalty, perhaps holding on to the hope that the stewards will not penalize him for what may have been an error of the sim platform. And Tim is actually down to his last push to pass use, so perhaps coming under a lot of pressure there from the drivers behind. But as we said, if you are within a second of the driver ahead, you're able to use that push to pass. And if we're looking at the minimap, we can see most of these drivers are still very close, as is P4 and P3. Looking at Alex Jarrett now and Kimani Eastman there taking a tighter line, allowing Alex to get a better exit than him, but they are still at about 3.5 tenths the gap. Alex Jarrett, we know, he's very quick around this track, as evidenced in the free practice session, and here he is trying to make a move on Kimani Eastman, almost pushing him around the track here. It's Corolla versus Ford Focus going through the final couple of corners. Alex here still has 2 push to pass uses, and he may have pulled the trigger too early. It's contact between the 2 red car drivers. Alex there pulling to a halt to make a safe rejoin, and that's Tim Stahl into the pits for his penalty. He picked up another one, but it's Mikhail Charles now leading this race with only 6 minutes to go. Ravens only has 2 push to pass uses left, whereas Mikhail has 4. So this could be, well, I don't want to call down doom and gloom, but it's looking very good for Mikhail Charles right now. I think he's actually the driver with the most uses left, second to Senna, who I don't think he's used it once. So Mikhail here looking very good for a race win here around San Carlos.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be the quickest driver out there. You just have to do your best and be consistent. Although Mikhail Charles will consider this a gift from the gods, given that the two drivers in front of him picked up penalties there. But certainly a win is a win, and that's what the record books will show. It won't show why he won, it will show that he won, and you will take that to the bank all day. But Mikhail Charles there, I thought Raven Plummer was going to put a little bit more pressure on him at some point, as she was 4/10 quicker than him on the previous lap, but not making much inroads into his gap there. So up and down the order, we're not seeing much taking place in terms of battles on track at the moment, as these drivers are all a little bit segregated. Roger Robinson is coming up to the back of Roger Keller, and I do believe there is a small pace difference in favor of Roger Robinson, as he is now just about under a second behind Roger Keller, and we will see if he can make any inroads into Roger there. But Roger has two push to passes to use in defense, whereas Roger has utilized all of his trying to catch up to this pack. So we will see if there is anything Roger can do to try and fight back at Roger there ahead of him. Further down the order, I see Senna and Nicholas Donald there having some contact, but managing to keep it going. Those two drivers have been fighting, as Jaden Harrison just got by Eric Ferrer. Not sure how or why that happened. That seemed a very aggressive pass. Maybe Eric there making an error, giving Jaden Harrison that position. So managing to get back to P8 after his penalty. I don't think Tim will be rejoining this race, maybe just chalking it up with the second penalty and deciding that he will live to fight another day. But Jaden Harrison there trying to close up to the drivers ahead, as Alex Jarrett and Kimani Eastman, who we were watching the onboards earlier, are still going at it, having made some contact and having to rejoin, and both making a mistake there at turn 2. Maybe Alex a slightly more, well, I would have said a more costly mistake, but he still manages to keep ahead of Kimani Eastman here. The gap just about 0.3 of a second. So Kimani is trying to fight back, having lost that position to Alex a few laps ago. Roger Robinson, meanwhile, has managed to close up quite significantly to Roger Keller, and Roger only now has one push to pass left for defense, and not sure how he's gonna play this one. Maybe just biding his time and thinking, where will I be able to defend? But Roger Robinson there gets a much better drive out of the final corner and takes that position away from Roger Keller, who is looking to stick in the slipstream and bide his time to maybe try and use that one remaining push to pass as a silver bullet to take the fight back to Roger Robinson. But I am not sure he has the pace to keep up. Roger Robinson slightly quicker than Roger overall. And yeah, we will see if there are any more moves on the table, ladies and gentlemen. But Roger Robinson there making a good comeback effort, having lost a few positions with the drive-through penalty to start this race, managing to find himself back in P4. You know, that will be a good recovery drive for him. Roger Keller there sticking with him though, with the one push to pass left. Roger Keller maybe hoping that he can stick just close enough to use it at the right moment, you know, just lying like a lion in wait for his prey at the moment, in the hopes.
That moment could be coming right here, Chad. He is within the 1 second gap coming around the final corner. I'm watching the timing to see if he's going to pull the trigger. He doesn't. He has about another lap left in this race, 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go, plus 1 lap, so rather there's 2 laps left in this race at least, and he is managing to not quite match, but he's keeping close enough to the man ahead of him to not warrant using that push to pass. As a matter of fact, his push to pass has been used. I'm not sure when he used it.
Yeah, no, I was looking at it as well, wondering when that happened. But yeah,
but no, it has been used. And now it's going to be whoever has more pace. Roger there going a bit deep. He's obviously pushing to try and catch up further up the grid. Mikhail Charles on the 16th lap. 2.5 seconds is the gap between himself and Raven Plummer. And he's all out of charges, but he should be fine, barring any catastrophe. The famous last words from us as commentators. If he manages to keep it clean, this will be a race win for him. It's going to be 26 seconds, at about 20 seconds left till the end of this race, plus 1 lap. My apologies. And we still have a few battles going on. Roger Killer is dropping from the back of Robinson now. This may be, it may be all wrapped up for Roger in terms of his opportunities to move up the order. Further back, we see Kimani Eastman only 1.7 seconds adrift of Alex Jarrett ahead. Jaden Harrison was leading this race. He actually took pole position here and is currently now trying to catch up to Kimani Eastman. He is making use of his push to pass, and it looks as though Eric Ferreira still has 5 push to pass uses left. Some drivers not binding that button on their wheels, even though it was mentioned in the driver briefing prior to the race. Senna Somerville in P11 there with 5, and Tim, I'm not sure why, but he did not follow Jaden, or rather he was disqualified. I was about to ask Chad, why is it that Tim is in the pits when he could have gotten back up into the top 10 like Jaden has, and it would be a good result for him, a good starting position for him for the second race starting in a few minutes time, as Mikhail Charles is about to come across the line to start the final lap of this race. It's only now about 2 seconds flat between himself and Raven Plummer charging behind. And who is that ahead of Jaden Harrison making a mistake? It's Kimani Eastman. Jaden now starting his final lap, putting Kimani under pressure. No push to pass for either of them. Kimani going very defensive, but Jaden just, it looks like, got a much better exit out of the final corner. And that's going to be 1 more position for him, moving up into P7.
And this is Alex Jarrett also gaining another position here as Roger Kello, it looks like, ran a little bit deep there in turn 2, and that unraveled very quickly for Roger, who was battling with Roger Robinson just a few laps ago. Now finds himself losing another position there to Alex Jarrett. These small mistakes around a high-speed track such as the one that we are currently racing, as I mentioned earlier, it spells catastrophe very regularly, as we see here.
But it's going to be victory, Chad, for Mikhail Charles, who is about to cross the line to win the first race here around San Carlos in the CTCC. It was gifted to him in a manner, but we cannot discount the fact that Mikhail had the pace, he had the skills necessary to hold off Raven, which is no mean feat, and capitalize on the disasters of his counterparts around him. A wonderful win for Mikhail Charles. Raven Plummer in second. Oswin Wilson holding on for third. Roger Robinson finishing in P4. Alex Jarrett crosses the line in P5. Roger Keller in P6. Jaden Harrison damage mitigation there for him. Finishing in P7. Kimani Eastman crosses the line in P8. P9 is Eric Ferreira, as he now crosses the line to finish in P9, and Nicholas Donald rounds out the top 10 in the end of this first race. And a Somerville crossing the line, or I think he may be in the pits. No, he's just taking his sweet time. Is Senna Somerville perhaps ran out of fuel, but it's going to be Nicholas Donald who starts on pole for the second race there, Chad.
Absolutely, and that's a familiar saying here at the JSRA, and there's a driver there pushing Senna Somerville along, trying to get him back to the line. Senna Somerville there looking like he did actually run out of fuel on the final lap there, maybe not factoring in the +1 lap in the situation. But yeah, no, overall, again, as you mentioned, Mikhail Charles there, doing everything he needed to do to secure a victory, as much as, again, we could say it was gifted to him, but what the record books is going to show is a victory for Mikhail Charles. All other factors
Definitely
null and void. Raven Plummer managing to come across the line in P2. Oswin Wilson takes P3, and Roger Robinson doing a very good job at limiting his damage as well, having taken the drive through at the start for speeding to come across the line in P4, Alex Jarrett from last on the grid, making it to P5. That strategy panning out for him much better than it did Senna Somerville further down the order. Roger Kello having a very roller coaster race, dare I say, managing to come across the line in P6, and Jaden Harrison, as you mentioned, his damage limitation with the stop and go penalty, managed to fight back to P7. Kimani Eastman, not having the best of races, comes across a P8, and we still have one more race to go, Kale, with all of that action that took place. So certainly we have it all to do again in a few moments time, with Nicholas Donald starting on pole alongside Eric Ferrero, Kimani Eastman and Jaden Harrison on the second row, Roger Kello, Alex Jarrett on the third row, Roger Robinson and Oswin Wilson behind them, Raven Plummer and Mikhail Charles rounding out the top 10. Senna Somerville and Tim Stahl will be starting from P11 and 12 respectively, as they finished outside the top 10.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of one race and the beginning of the next in just a few short moments. For the latecomers, I want to thank you for joining me here in, as I said, vibrant Venezuela, sunny Venezuela, here around the San Carlos circuit. It's 3.1 kilometers long, 9 corners, and we are, of course, here in the fan favorite or custom-built touring cars, the Mitsubishi Lancer, which we can see being piloted by Raven Plummer, Mikhail Charles, Roger Robinson, and Senna Somerville. The Chevy Cruze, which is not no one driving the Chevy Cruze here tonight. The Ford Focus being driven by Kimani Eastman, and the Toyota Corolla, which is definitely the car which is most popular for this car track combination. It's a very high speed track, very high speed nature, just a few heavy braking zones in turn 2 and turn 3. We saw many an overtake happening, especially heading out of P2 and heading into the final corner on the run up to the line. The push to pass system being utilized effectively by the drivers. And I'll reiterate for those of you who did not know, the push to pass system, very similar to the drag reduction system in Formula One. If a driver behind is within 1 second of the car in front of him, he is able to activate push to pass, which unlocks a few more horsepower, it's a little bit more speed, to assist in getting pass made. So we're about to get going for the second of 2 races here tonight. Nicholas Donald alongside Eric Ferreira here on the first row of the grid, and it's going to be a rolling start. Of course, mimicking the first race, we're going to have the safety car come to the front of the grid and lead us away as drivers get ready for the start of this second race.
Absolutely. And we were looking in the chat, Kale, where we saw Oswin Wilson sending a message in the chat mid-race, and El Presidente calling him out just to be like, how is this man driving and texting? Stewards, have a look at this. So, a man of many talents there, managing to finish in P3 in the previous race. But all to do again here, ladies and gentlemen, as we are getting ready to go racing once more for the second race of the evening. The reverse grid of the top 10. Nicholas Donald will get us going from pole position, and again, it is a rolling start, so the safety car will take us on a formation lap to get us up to racing conditions. The drivers will have that lap in order to warm up their tires and prep themselves to go racing, and hopefully all of the drivers manage to put enough fuel in the car this time around to get themselves to the end of the race.
And this is only one of the many series that we have coming up here in the second official season here at the JSRA. If you'd like to stay up to date with all that's happening here, you can follow us on our social media on Instagram at JSRA Official. You can find us on Facebook, search for the Jamaica Sim Racing Association. And also you can follow us on Twitch at JSRA_official to see our replays. And if you're joining here on YouTube, of course, this is the place as well to catch up on your replays as well as to see what's happening here. We have a few live events happening per week, and it is non-stop excitement. Thanks for joining on the SportsMax app, our broadcasting partners, who, from what I've heard, they're absolutely loving the content here. As we see the BMW safety car leading us away, a very bright colored Toyota Corolla there being piloted by Nick Donald, Eric Ferreira there following behind, and Kimani Eastman P1, 2, and 3 respectively. Those drivers. Kimani had a pretty decent race there. Mr. Consistency himself, finding himself on the third step, or rather the third grid spot for the start of this second race here. Jaden Harrison, who was the man on pole position for the first race, had a bit of a doozy, picking up a penalty somewhere along the line, finding himself towards the back of the grid. Excellent damage limitation from him to find himself back up into the points, and now in P4 for the start of the second race. And drivers now will allow... Sorry, Chad.
And Cale, normally for the drivers in the reverse grid, you'd be able to say, well, the front drivers have a bit of time to get some, clear air going before the quicker drivers behind catch up, but not this time around, as Jaden Harrison is right there in the mix at the front of the grid. So, this is going to be advantage Jaden, I think, in this particular race. If he manages to, not have any incidents in the first few corners, he could find himself well out into the lead and comfortably leading this race early on, given that he is so close to the front. But we have rounded the final corner, Cale, and we will go racing. So all of those questions will be answered in a few moments' time. Safety car speed limit at 80, and we await the red and green lights to get going racing. Red light on, and once we get that green light, it's go, go, go. And we are off, ladies and gentlemen. Jaden Harrison already looking the aggressor there. Eric Ferreira seems to have taken the inside line and gotten P1 away from Nicholas Donald. Jaden Harrison there coming through in P2. And who is that on the inside there? 3 wide.
That was Roger Keller there in the blue Toyota, but it's going to be Jaden Harrison finding himself battling for the top spot already. Not even 2 corners, and he is now firmly in P2. It looks like it's going to be a safety car. A few cars there caught up in a collision, and that's a quick safety car, the first one of the evening. So it's been clean racing up until this moment, and Jaden finds himself in P2 already. Excellent racing.
Absolutely, and Kimani Easton there looking like the driver that came off worse for wear coming out of that safety car. And I am not sure if Roger is aware of the safety car at the moment, as he is gaining positions under the safety car conditions at the moment. But he seems to have stopped in P6. Maybe that was his position that he needed to retake. However, now on the next lap we have it all to do again, getting going racing, and Jaden Harrison already making up 2 positions from the start, and with only 1 driver ahead of him. It is again advantage Jaden, I think, on this restart. So we will see if he can keep that going. Michael Charles, Roger Robinson, and Raven Plummer not making up that many positions at the restart there. I actually think Roger Robinson lost a position. Raven and Roger seem to be jockeying for position at the moment. I'm not sure who should be taking the lead, but we are about to go racing again, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back to green flag conditions as Eric Ferrer gets away from Jaden Harrison. He does have a little bit of an advantage, and Jaden Harrison might be having to defend there on the inside. They are 3 wide again into turn 1, and there is some contact up and down the field, and that is, I am not sure who that is going off there. Nicholas Donald.
Was Oswin Wilson, Chad. I saw him using that push to pass to find himself going 3 wide with Eric and Jaden there into the first corner, but I think he was going a little bit too fast for himself. Making a bit of contact there with those 2 drivers. Eric, unfortunately for him, finding himself now down in P5. That race start did not go how he wanted it at all. But Nicholas Donald has retaken the lead of this race. It may be under a virtual safety car, but a lead is a lead, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, it's going to be Eric, Somerville, and Tim Stahl with it all to be done. Tim still down the order in P8 after this restart. Kimani Eastman or Jay Robinson, Oswin Wilson now down in P12. A terrible restart for him.
Yeah,
When
maybe.
for a few seconds there, he had the lead of this race, but you blink and you miss it.
Yeah, maybe thought himself a little smarter than the average bear there, trying to use the push to pass to gain an advantage out of that restart, but not working out quite as planned as Jaden Harrison right on the rear wing of Nicholas Donald, maybe not trying to have it to do again, because Jaden Harrison under that restart was in P2 and back on the safety car condition, still in P2, but with a different driver in the lead. So clearly, as much as we thought it was advantage Jaden, as we go racing again, and Nicholas Donald got away very nicely there, using the push to pass and pulling away from the drivers behind. And up and down the order, we see very many of the drivers again using that push to pass, trying to get
That's
positions.
3 wide heading into the first corner, but majority manages to keep it on the road. That's Eric Ferreira losing out there, running off into the grass, but it's Nicholas Donald still in the lead from Jaden Harrison. Jaden just now using his push to pass to keep himself in the position that he's in. Mikhail Charles in P3, still with 4 uses to go. Raven Plummer finds herself up into P4 now. Tim Starr from P8 up into P6. Senna Somerville as well, making a few positions up the order. Kimani Eastman dropping back down, and there's Oswin Wilson finding himself now up into P10. Alex Charlton, Roger Robinson still going at it now, heading into turns 5, 6, and 7. They are very close here. Drivers still they can use the push to pass twice per lap, but only 5 times for the entire race. So we've had 2 race restarts, or not restarts, but we've had 2 we've had 2 safety car restarts so far, and up and down the field, drivers are making use of that push to pass to keep themselves in the positions they are in if they're in the front. And we can see Jaden there trying to get past Nicholas Donald. Nicholas using up his push to pass, but it's not going to be enough. Jaden has the slipstream plus the extra horsepower heading through the first corner. It's a long right-hander. There's Nick just running a little bit wide. This moves Mikhail Charles now up into P2. Jaden Harrison takes the lead, and Raven Plummer is going to take that third spot from Nicholas, who just misses his breaking point, and it's going to be disaster for Nick there as he tried to maintain the lead of that race. Jaden Harrison now is going to be the man to catch as Mikhail Charles, Raven Plummer, and Roger Keller in P2, 3, and 4 respectively try to work together, I think, to catch up to him.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what happened there, but looking up and down the field there, Kale, all of these drivers getting very aggressive with their push to passes very early. Raven only has 2 left, and we've only really done 2 real laps of racing so far. So Alex Jarrett there under pressure from Roger Robinson. No, that's not Roger, that's Oswin Wilson. He's actually under pressure from. And Kimani Eastman also getting into the mix of that fight. Up ahead, Roger Robinson giving chase there to Senna Somerville. And again, we all know how difficult it is to get by Senna Somerville. And Senna has used 4 out of 5 push to passes at this stage of the game. Tim Stahl there getting by Roger Keller, it seems. All of these drivers very trigger happy with the push to pass this time around. Even Alex Jarrett has used one in this race. The previous race we saw where none of the drivers were using the push to pass, but everybody now trying their best to gain position early, and battles taking place up and down the order as all of the drivers trying to get themselves into position so that they can just start putting in the lap Senna there. Oh, wow.
With an excellent dive there on Robinson, getting that position made, but a little bit too much contact there heading through those left-handers there, and I think that's going to be well, they live to fight another day, Robinson and Somerville, but Somerville loses out a few positions. But I think in the first race, drivers were being very conservative with the push to pass, but I think getting it's definitely using it up for all it's worth now. Raven Plummer with only 2 left. Tim Stahl, who currently has the fastest lap of the race, there's a reason for that, and it's because he's been using up the push to pass uses. Sets the fastest lap another time, a 1:11.3, and takes a position from Raven Plummer. She's still there on the outside. Can she come back around the outside? She's still there. You can see the shadow of her car. She might try the switchback, but I think she's going to think better of it in the Mitsubishi Lancer, and that's going to be another position for Tim Stahl, who was way down the order. But I think definitely not playing around here in the second race after being disqualified in the first. Would definitely be setting his sights on Mikhail Charles ahead. He's right in front of him, only half a second, and Jaden Harrison another second and a half after that. Tim, a man on a mission, Raven Plummer trying to stay with him. It's definitely popping off here tonight at for the second time around San Carlos here in sunny Venezuela. These drivers are not waiting around. They want to be the one leading this race with only about 10.5 minutes left.
Absolutely, halfway through this race, and positions 2, 3, and 4 are all up to play. Everybody trying to be the first driver in the rears of Jaden Harrison, and maybe Tim Stahl thinking, you know what, Jaden and I were having a very good battle first time around, let's go at it again. Tim Stahl there making his way past Mikhail Charles, but Mikhail has 2 push-to-passes left, whereas Tim has used all of his, and you see the horsepower there, ladies and gentlemen. Mikhail Charles powering past Tim Stahl there, using the push-to-pass feature. Did he get the car slowed down enough? I think he did manages to cover off any move there from Tim Stahl, and I'm sure they'll be going at it again, but Mikhail now with 2 push-to-passes to defend from Tim, who has none left, and Raven Plummer behind might be thinking, let's play a little bit of cat and mouse. Let these 2 battle it out, and then just stick my nose in to gain that position and be in second place. The driver who should be loving all of this fighting taking place though is Jaden Harrison. 2 seconds clear up the road
100%.
and continues to clear off into the distance whilst the fighting is going on behind him. Look at these 3 drivers coming across start finish, just lined up in a train. Tim trying to get at Mikhail, and Raven just laying weight in the wings to try and get any position that she can out of this fight. Tim Stahl is trying everything he can to make that move on Mikhail Charles, but Mikhail is playing this perfectly because still with 2 push-to-passes at his disposal, he can defend away from Tim Stahl in a way that Tim might not be able to counteract. Mikhail there just hugging the inside line, but Tim is going to go for the switchback here and has the line as they go through turn 3 there, but the inside will turn to the outside, and Mikhail Charles manages to hold on to that position, and they are really heating up in this fight.
And now he's coming under attack from Raven Plummer. She's been here all along. Perhaps Tim may have forgotten about the charging Raven in that Mitsubishi behind him. He's been dead set focused on getting past the man ahead, which is Mikhail Charles. But Raven Plummer now only less than half a second to Tim Stahl ahead. She runs a little bit wide there. I don't see her using her push to pass. I think it's going to be down to raw speed here. Tim without any more uses of the push to pass system. And he's managing to stay with Mikhail Charles. Mikhail may have to drop this one out, position that car as defensive as he can to conserve the remaining push to pass uses he has to use in a defensive manner, because you can clearly see that Tim definitely has the pace advantage here. Raw pace, he definitely has it over Mikhail Charles here at this track in particular. Jaden is moving off into the distance, yes, but it's still only 2.5 seconds to the drivers behind him. And I think as soon as Tim dispatches off Mikhail, it may happen sooner or later. He's definitely going to be putting the pressure on Jaden from this far behind. Even though Jaden has 3 more push-to-pass uses left, it's still anyone's win here in my that's my analysis of this race so far. Less than half of the race distance to go. 7 minutes plus 1 lap. But it's not just happening here at the front. You can see Alex Jarrett now on the start-finish straight, trying to get past Senna Summerbelly's half a second behind him, sitting in the slipstream, trying to get past. Is he close enough to make something happen heading into the first corner? I don't think so. He's going to have to. Well, it looks as though he got close enough and a little bit too close. There's contact between Somerville and Jarrett. That's not what we want to see. What we want to see is Tim Stahl trying to make a move on Mikhail. He's trying to switch back again, but Mikhail positions that car perfectly. Makes it as wide as possible in defense from the German behind him. And there's Raven trying to capitalize on the little bit of squabbling happening ahead, but Mikhail runs a little bit wide. And here's Tim now with a better exit through turns 6 and 7. We're now on the run up to turn 8. He is still in the slipstream. No push to pass for him, but he may just get that good of an exit. Will the German, they're coming around the final corner now. Let's see what happens here. We can see Tim is practically pushing that Mitsubishi down the start-finish straight. Mikhail may have to use a push to pass in defense here. Here's Tim. He moves from behind. Mikhail ahead to try and make a move. Mikhail takes the inside. Tim goes down the inside as well. He tries to, but Mikhail is making that car
10
it's
feet
an
wide.
impenetrable defense.
Yeah, no, Mikhail Charles is
from
just positioning that car ever so nicely to keep ahead, and I am enjoying this battle thoroughly. Tim is trying every position to make a move on Mikhail Charles here, and Mikhail sitting there knowing full well that he has 2 push to passes to play with when he does need to use them, is just doing his best to keep Tim Stahl behind with brilliant defensive driving. I think Jaden Harrison still clearing off into the distance, 3.5 seconds now, but Mikhail Charles is making that Mitsubishi look like a truck at this stage of the game. It is looking 10 feet wide and impenetrable, with Tim Stahl trying every maneuver possible to get by. Tim Stahl again with the better exit there out of the final corner as Raven Plummer there gets a little.
Chad, this could be the moment. It's contact between Tim and Mikhail. Mikhail on the inside. Tim lifts to try the switchback once again. Will Mikhail cover him off? He doesn't. He left the space there, but I don't think he was close enough. Again, a little bit of contact between them there. Perhaps Tim getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit tired of seeing this red Mitsubishi Lancer ahead of him. I can only imagine how hard he must be pushing, trying to keep himself composed, trying to keep the tires alive, trying to get past Mikhail Charles. Mikhail Charles having none of it. An excellent defense from him, as Jaden Harrison is loving this. Chad, now almost 4 seconds in the lead over Mikhail Charles. I think it's all sewn up for Jaden, barring catastrophe. We always have to put it in there because, I mean, to be honest, this is racing and anything can happen. Further down the order, it's now a 3-way battle between Somerville, Eastman, and I believe that is Nicholas Donald leading this pack here for P6. Kimani Eastman trying to get past. My apologies. Senna Somerville squeezing up the inside there of Nicholas Donald, getting past him. It's still contact between them, but they managed to keep it going. And there's Senna going very defensive all over the track, making that car, literally making that car as wide as the track. We know he puts up quite the defensive masterclass here, but let's hope we can keep it clean as there's contact between Eastman and Donald. That's not what you want to see. But it was inevitable, you know, a little bit of contact here or there. Speaking of contact, here's Tim once more trying to get past Mikhail. Mikhail still has 2 push to pass uses in the bag and hasn't used them as yet. What is he waiting for? Is he waiting for Tim to get past and then attack him on the straight? I can only imagine, but thus far he is doing an excellent job himself, keeping the German behind, which is easier said than done. Raven Plummer seems to be dropping back a little bit now. Chad perhaps biding her time as well with the one last push to pass use that she has. 2.5 minutes left in this race. I have no clue what's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I think Raven there just not quite putting it together this time around, as she is a little bit all over the place in the second half. But Tim Stahl and Mikhail Charles here still going at it, and Mikhail is defending like a lion, ladies and gentlemen. I have seen very rarely the kind of defense that has been put up, but runs a little wide there and gives Tim the inside line. Still manages to come around that corner using the better line through that corner to get the better exit. and still maintains that position. Mikhail Charles is putting on the defensive show of the year. I mean, if ever I needed to put in a vote for Minister of Defense in Trinidad, I would be putting my vote to Mikhail Charles after the drive that he was putting on here in the second race. Tim Stahl, ladies and gentlemen, has about half a second worth of pace over Mikhail Charles, but is not finding anywhere to use that pace advantage with the defense that Mikhail Charles is putting on. And Mikhail Charles, all the while, knowing that he has two aces up his sleeve in those two remaining push to pass uses, and is not needing to call on them just yet, doing a bit of driving that anybody could be proud to say that they had done against a driver like Tim Stahl, who is no slouch around a racetrack. Mikhail Charles is doing a fantastic job, and all the while, he must be sitting there, to borrow Oscar Piastri's phrase, thinking that he is an expert on the rear wing of that Mitsubishi Lancer. He's been looking at it for so long. He could tell you every detail on that rear wing by this point. But Stahl there looking like he may have lost a little bit of steam, maybe frustration boiling over, because he has dropped back a little bit, and Raven Plummer is now right in the mix, and she has one push to pass that she can use to take the fight to Tim Stahl. There now right there with each other. Raven just about 0.4 of a second away from Tim Stahl, and gaining still at this stage of the game, but drop back slightly there in that section. Maybe Tim just recomposing himself, but we will have one lap to go. No, 2 laps to go. Jaden has just crossed the, no, he hasn't crossed the line just yet, but he will cross the line before time elapses. So we will have this lap plus one more to go as Jaden now crosses the line with 6 seconds left. And so we have 2 more laps of this action to come your way, ladies and gentlemen. And Tim has changed from offense to defense. He is now defending from Raven Plummer there, taking a very wide line into turn 1, making sure that Raven cannot attack around the outside, maybe getting his elbows out a little bit there, having not been able to take the fight to Mikhail Charles, and maybe picking up a defensive trick or two in the process, defending from Raven there in that corner. Kale, this has been a fight for the ages thus far.
It definitely has been. And speaking of electing anyone to be Minister of Defense, I think it's at the perfect time to talk about the overtake of the race and the driver of the race. Mikhail Charles, hands down, driver of the race. Win, lose, whatever position he finishes in, he has managed to put forth some of the best driving, some of the best clean defense I've seen as a matter of fact, in any CTCC race thus far. Even though he knows that he has 2 push-to-pass uses left, and he is still there, keeping Tim behind. Driver of the race for me. In terms of overtake, I cannot forget what Jaden Harrison did in the first race, going around the outside in turn 1 to move from P2 up into P1. That was a fantastic move from Jaden Harrison.
And Mikhail Charles, they're finally pushing the little red button to say, you know what, let me not leave anything to chance. I have 2 left, and this is the final lap, and I can use them both on the final lap. So I'm going to make sure I don't leave anything to question in the final few corners here. Jaden Harrison has started the final lap, and he's about rounding out sector 1 at the moment. We will switch on board to him in a few moments time as we get to the end of the race. But this has been a thrilling battle to watch all race long, and most everybody has utilized the entirety of their push to passes at this point. But the man who has enjoyed I don't want to say no competition, but certainly maybe he enjoyed Mikhail Charles' defense even more than Mikhail Charles enjoyed it, because Jaden Harrison, 6 seconds out in front, will come across the line to take victory in the second race of the evening, and Mikhail Charles doing a fantastic job defending away from the likes of Tim Stahl and Raven Plummer, who all come across the line 3, 4, and 5. Roger Robinson, the 5th driver, to come across the line here in the second race. Senna Somerville making up some positions here in the second race of the evening, will come across the line in P6. A much better showing from him this time around as he runs wide there in the final corner. And Alex Jarrett further back will be rounding the final corner to come across the line in P7, and followed by Kimani Eastman, who Finishes in the same position for both races, a respectable P8, not quite on pace with the drivers ahead today, but good solid work from Kimani Eastman, followed by Nicholas Donald, the driver who had a very action-packed race, but not the kind of action you want to be a part of. The man that started on pole coming across the line in P9. Eric Ferreira will cross the line in P10, and the final of the finishers, Mr. Roger Keller, will cross the line for P11. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the second race of the evening. And what a race it was from all of these drivers,
Yes,
namely
it was.
2, 3, and 4. Mikhail Charles, Tim Stahl, and Raven Plummer gave us a show for the ages in this race. And you rightfully mentioned my driver of the day would also be Mikhail Charles. Victory in the first race and P2 in the second race, with a brilliant bit of defense on display in taking that second position. And what a drive it was for Mikhail Charles, and the drivers now taking their spots there for the podium finishers of this race. 1, 2, and 3, Jaden Harrison there in the middle, Mikhail Charles on the left, and Tim Stahl on the right, who drove the best he could here in this race to try and take the fight to Mikhail Charles, but not able to get it done. What a job from these drivers here this evening, Kale.
I have to say, man, this race is it. I expected a lot from it. I mean, knowing this track, its high speed nature, and these drivers and these cars, it's a lovely combination, and we saw it here on display. Excellent talent around the Caribbean, around the world. Drivers. We have Eric Ferreira here from Brazil, Tim Stahl from Germany. We have Raven Plummer from the States, and of course, the Jamaican drivers coming out in force here. It's talent up and down the grid. It was close racing anywhere you looked. And, it's a testament to the talent that we have here that we are curating and developing here at the JSRA. And we're going to speak to our top finishers here in just a few moments. Chad Dillon is going to be doing our interviews as usual to hear from the driver's perspective, from the driver's eye, how the race unfolded for them.
Absolutely, and we will be starting with the man on attack, Mr. Tim Stahl. Tim, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Tim. So congratulations there, P3 in the second race, and a disaster-filled first race. But talk us through the event. How do you feel?
First race, very unfortunate. I don't know what happened exactly with the stop and go penalty not working. Jane and I were battling up front. It was a great battle, but then we went too close to the pit wall, and it somehow it considered us as into the pits and gave us stop and goes for speeding, both of us. Jaden could, as it seems, serve his fine. I came in on the last lap. I tried to use the clear track in front of me a bit to, gain a bit of time and try to sort of edge out Jaden there. But I went into the pits, which is something I shouldn't have done, as I learned now, but I've never gotten a drive-through penalty, or stop and go penalty in real penalties, so I didn't know how to serve it, I guess. I stopped in my pit box and the counter didn't start, so yeah, I got disqualified from the race, unfortunately.
Right, the rather unfortunate first race there. Yeah, you can't stop in the pit box when you are to serve a drive-through penalty. That's the one place you should not stop, in the pit lane, for future reference. But in the second race there, you had a brilliant battle with Mikhail Charles. Just couldn't quite get the move done. How did that battle pan out?
Yeah, I mean, Mikhail was fast on pace. We saw it in the first race. We saw it in quali. And I did manage to keep up, but I used all my push-to-pass uses to get from, P12 to P4, or P3, rather. And I didn't have anything left for him. So with his masterful defense, and me not having any push-to-pass left, the best I could do is a P12 to P3. Would have been nice to get a second spot, but well done to Mikhail. Credit where credit is due. That was a great defense.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, Tim, and congratulations again. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right, thanks.
Okay. That was Tim Starr, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, we will be talking to Raven Plummer in just a moment's time. If I could manage to get her moved into the correct location. Okay, Raven, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Congratulations there in the first race and a little bit of hard luck there in the second race. Talk us through the two events.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this course is not, I'm not very good at it. So my entire objective was just to finish the race. Right? Race one, I had 4 cuts out of 5. Very, very close to being disqualified, but fortunately I wasn't hit with any penalties because that's what gifted me P2. Right? Tim and Jaden both got those penalties. Without that, of course, I'd still be in the mid pack.
Absolutely. Well, their penalties were actually for speeding in the pit lane, which was a little bit unfortunate because that didn't actually happen. But nonetheless, that is racing, and particularly sim racing, where the electronic factors come into play. But you got a front row view to the battle between Tim and Mikhail there ahead of you. What was that like?
Oh, it was wonderful. I had 2 push-to-passes on standby. I was waiting for them to just fight a little too hard, make a little too big of a mistake, and take both those positions. But ultimately, I made a mistake, lost about a second, and had to use my push-to-passes to catch back up. But they kept the fighting going the entire time. It was wonderful seeing that, and it was a very fun race.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, Raven, and good luck in the events coming up. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we will be talking to the race winner for the second race of the evening, Jaden Harrison. Jaden, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hard luck in the first race there, but managed to do a little bit of damage limitation. And then the second race, barring the 2 restarts, looked like a cakewalk for you. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, it was just about, staying behind and staying out the incident. I had an incident into turn 1 on the race 2 restart. I drive a cut in front of me and didn't leave space, but just got past, use the push to pass efficiently, get past Nick and just do consistent laps from there and just let them fight behind.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, not much more to be said than that. Congratulations on the win, Jaden, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Cool.
All right, and then finally we will be talking to the man of the hour, Mr. Mikhail Charles. Struggling here, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize, but yes, Mikhail Charles. Mikhail, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Brilliant event all around for you. The first race was a gift, but we want to talk about that second race. I mean, that was no small feat, keeping up that defense for umpteen laps. So talk to me through that battle.
Well, the second race it was hard because I knew Tim was faster than me, and I had to defend for my life. Basically, I had to defend like a lion. And each lap he was just gaining on me, and I had to defend. It was just difficult. I kind of pushed the limits on some of the defense, but I think it was all good, and it was fun.
No, absolutely. That was fun to watch, and certainly you will have my vote if you ever decide to run for Trinidad's Minister of Defense. And in the first race, I mean, you kind of just got gifted P1 there, but you still had to maintain it. How was that race for you?
Well, yeah, in the first race, I had pace for like P3, right? And I was content with P3. And then I saw Jaden, and the first and second got up penalties. I was like, okay. So I just had to, keep calm, keep it all together, and just work it out. And it just worked out. I had like consistent lap times over and over. It was surprising, but I was just locked in.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, Mikhail, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
Yep. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes another stream here with us at the JSRA, and the drivers did give us a show here this evening. I'm not sure if my co-host is still here with me, but Kale, any final thoughts?
Yeah, this was definitely, I think this is my pick of the little so far in terms of racing action. It's only the third round in the CTCC series, and it's an excellent start to an already exciting season. The drivers are still rearing and ready to prove who is the fastest. And we want to thank you for joining us to watch the action unfold and supporting your favorite driver. Thanks for following on YouTube, Twitch, and tuning in live on Sportsmax app. We have the Chase for Pace team series coming up tomorrow. And, the official season is definitely underway. If you'd like to get on track and join the ranks of the best sim racers in the Caribbean, feel free to message on Instagram to get started with registration, or become a member today to get ultimate access to a growing community and resources to take your skills to the next level. Stay in the loop by following us on social media, on Instagram at JSRA Official, on Facebook at the Jamaica Sim Racing Association, and here on YouTube at JSRA 876. It's been my pleasure. It's been an excellent race to commentate over. My name is Kelvin Roper. Chad?
And I have been Chad Dillon. Again, our social medias are up on screen at the moment. If you do not follow us, we do appreciate the follows and the likes. But yes, thank you again for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you tomorrow for round 3 of the Radical Cup series at Phillip Island. It will be one for the books, I'm sure, so be sure to tune in for that. And we thank you for joining us here this evening again, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
We are coming up to as
man. So
there is a round.
outside. Oh yeah.
Ooh, he tried the switcheroo.
Yeah.
You came and failed the test, you met the best, expected chess, but got monopoly. I came and bought you out, I knocked you out, I cropped you out with no apologies. I am the hope, the heart, the fate, the spark, the one who will fulfill the prophecy. I just been counting, never lounging, climbing up mountains, bouncing back. Step in the ring, about you step back. They'll learn hot when I get on the track. I like it louder the most, watching all these sheep just buy down to the goat. If I can't decide, I'ma probably get both. We didn't celebrate, but right now I'm a toast, resurrected.
Here is Eastman going side by side with Jaden Harrison. Jaden Harrison took him on the inside, but Eastman says no and closes the door. But here he is now about to lose 2 positions heading into the penultimate corner. Now coming through the final corner, can Moss get past Eastman as well?